Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of In Tap Presents Group Discussion. Today's topic is: Does knowledge of history enrich one's worldview? Knowledge of history is often perceived as a market of higher education or intelligence. After all, what else could someone who knows a lot about history knows other than don't? Yet, most people fail to even remember the first Prime Minister of India, and historians lament the lack of knowledge about history among most people and wonder whether this erodes their worldview and humanity in general. They suggest the knowledge of history helps us understand our own place in society and how we got here. In other words, learning about past events that helps us make sense of the present and choose a better future. So the time of darkness tends to be followed by enlightened ones and vice versa. History shows that each period is a part of an ongoing cycle, but knowing where we come from may help us avoid repeating past mistakes. So let's start off with today's group discussion now. So who'd like to speak first, guys?
Ma'am, may I repeat?
Sure, Arpit, please go on.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Arpit Singh, a student from DB Public School, Ghaziabad. First of all, I would like to thank the association for providing me this opportunity. So, without wasting any time, let's get started. Does history change our worldview? A very interesting question. I think we can all agree that the subjects of history go far beyond our textbook, right? History is more than just those mere text and images. Like everything has a history. What we learn, what we read has some historical background, and that's why it is interesting. But a question stands up here. How is it useful? Are records speak far? Useful to us in the present? Does history hold the secrets to change our future? I think we need help from history itself to answer this question. There have been many instances in the past in which people learned and developed. One such example is invention of wheels. We all know that human mankind invented wheels so that they can transport heavy goods easily. This influenced their successors to develop more sophisticated forms of transport. And this is the best gift to humans. That is, we can think. Our ancestors learned from their ancestors, and their ancestors learned from their ancestors, and so on, to form this present. This is a most common yet clear example of what we can achieve by looking back to our past. We can learn different techniques, learn their thought process, and use it for our own sake, right? But how history influences modern times, in which everyone has different opinions. For that, I have another great example of the same. There were many rulers, kings, and aristocrats who ruled their people in the past. Some were good and many were bad. It was those people who led the revolution for their rights, and it was they who taught their successors how to live the life full of dignity and liberty. Greek War of Independence, Israel Persian conflict, Iran Iraq war is a small set of examples in which generations lost countless lives. But humanity, after fighting countless wars, learned one important thing. That thing is that to live a peaceful life, we need to have respectful opinions. They learned that disrespecting others' opinions is usually the main reason for any war. And this lesson from history has had a great impact on their worldviews and plays an important role in many countries' constitutions till now. Like our own Indian constitution, strictly follows secularism. It states, in matter of state, religion has no place. And if the constitution requires the state to be secular in thought and action, the same requirement attaches to political parties as well. The constitutional does not recognize and does not permit mixing of religion and state power. This is a clear example of how one generation uses the map handed down by their ancestors to reach their destination. But every coin has two sides. The knowledge of history keeps changing. It is never static because civilization never ceases to develop, right? So we should be careful when we step forward because history can repeat itself. It is a vast early warning system, and one who ignores it eventually pays. Let me give you another example. While there are plenty of examples of history repeating itself, let's take a look in one of the most interesting episodes. Hitler's attempt of invasion of Russia in 1945. Does it not remind you all of Napoleon's same attempt over 100 years earlier in 1812? Both of these infamous leaders had grand plans and were largely successful, but their fortunes in their respective wars turned after a failed attempt to invade Russia. Both leaders, having had significant victories, turned their attention to Russia with their massive army. As the invasion progressed into winter, Napoleon's troops and Hitler's troops 100 years later both faced unforeseen difficulties. So the bottom line is that history is a great tool, and the generation who ignores it has no past and no future. I would like to conclude my thoughts with this great quote. A people without the knowledge of their past history are like a tree without roots. I'm very excited to hear other opinions on this. Thank you.
Ma'am, can I, Tanisha? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tanisha Chakravarti. I'm a student of DAV Public School. So, our topic of today is how history enriches one's worldview. Well, I think what history is the past events of political and economical conditions which were there in the past and which help us to understand today's present scenario. Like today's scenario of war and these crises tell us about the 1920 plague which occurs. From there, we understood how the problem, the disease is spread. But today, in today's world, as we have advanced scientific technology, we are able to defeat this COVID-19 virus. But at that time in history, we couldn't. So, in this way, we learn from our history and build our scientific reforms. And another way, how history is related to our economy. That once Professor Brad DeLong said that every single piece of economic theory is ultimately a piece of crystallized history. We all know how in the past, white revolution, green revolution has given a boost to our Indian economy. So this way, history helps us to know how the economic pattern was going and what it is today. In fact, this political scenario also depends on the history, on the past. The fresh political scenario today, what we have with our conflicts with our both the neighboring countries, its reason is in the past. The POK and the LAC dispute was there, which occurred in the past when India got independence from the British rule. And in fact, there were some mistakes we made at that time, and we should learn from those mistakes so that further we don't repeat these. As we all know how China is doing its conquering nature to get the rule over the China Sea, he's also saying that Arunachal Pradesh of India is also a part of its country. So from the past, we can learn that how can we protect our nation so that it don't get conquered by another country. In fact, also many great kingdoms, many great empires were there in India also. Like we all know the Arab invasion, the British invasion just shook the Indian soul. And in present scenario also, we have recently have many riots and internal instability was also there in the country. And these things, these scenarios are just like the scenario happened in 1929 during the when sorry 1942 when Muhammad Ali Jinnah demanded for the Pakistan. That time, similar riots were there also, which wouldn't can't control by the British rule. But now we have to control these things, as it's like it's shown that history is now repeating again because India's internal stability is now disbalancing. So from history, we can guess at the political scenarios also. In fact, the economical scenario. So history is not just a subject; it's a mixture of all the past events which have occurred.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. So, who'd like to speak next? Yes, Hardik, you can speak. I'll get back to you, Pranjal and Aditya.
So, hi everyone, I'm Hardik and I studied in class 10 of DB Public School, Saibabad. And I think history builds empathy through study through studying the life and struggles of others. Even history gives the opportunity to learn from others' past mistakes, which makes us more impartial when it's come to decision making. In fact, in many areas or field, such as one political party winning the last election versus the other, or a major drastic change in the number of smokers in the last decade, we need to look back in the past to understand the factors which are responsible for such conditions at present. We can truly say a person is informed citizen if he has a good knowledge of history. History teaches us so many moral values. However, what I think is it is written us by people, of course, and we can't truly say if any event mentioned in the history, if what exactly happened in that period or era. In fact, the people like Hitler used history to manipulate the people and created the horrendous Nazi. So I would like to convey that history plays a very crucial role in enriching our worldview, but only when they have studied in precisely, or otherwise we can get manipulated by others. And yeah, thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Hardik. Aditya, you can speak now.
Uh, Hello everyone. I'm Aditya Kumar of class of BE Public Schools, Hyderabad. I would like to start my views with this quote: "The more you know about the past, the more you better know about prepare for the future." Knowledge of past help us to improve our present and future and improve the quality of the life for mankind. Knowing the past help us to see how humans react and deal with the situations. This allows us to take preventive measures. The examples are endless. In 12th century, more than 200 million people were dead due to the bubonic plague. This is because the science at that time is not so much advanced and the vaccines were not invented that yet. And few years back, when coronavirus hit the world and killed millions of people in first and second phase, but now it is controlled to some extent because vaccines have been created. This is a development of the science we can see. In about a century back, the coastal plains every year were flooded, and this led to disrupt the human life and property. Now humans learn from past and develop different new techniques and modern houses to prevent the floods to many extent. Now I would like to add one more example that earlier the agriculture was done through methods like rahat, dheli, etc. This needs many human energy. But now the scientists have developed modern methods like drip irrigation, terrace farming, water plowing, and the number is endless. Because our world is made of history and because knowledge of our past offers new perspectives about the present, studying history gives us a deeper insight into our lives and the lives of the others. There are reasons enough to pursue it. Through history, we can learn how past societies, systems, ideologies, the government, culture, and technologies were built and how they are operated, how they are changed. The rich history of the world help us to paint a detailed picture where we stand today. I would like to conclude my view with this quote: "A people without the knowledge of their past is just like a tree without its roots." Thank you.
Can I go next?
Yes, Anya, you can speak better.
Thank you, ma'am. So, hello everyone present here. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Anil Akbar of class 10 from Mount Columbus School, and today I'm going to present my views on the topic: Does knowledge of history enriches one's worldview? The topic itself starts from a question. So, before answering it, I also want to ask one more question. You all can answer to that. What do you mean by worldview? Can anyone answer this question? Shall I begin my answer?
Can you repeat the question again, please? Because of the
Yeah. My question to you is: what is a worldview?
Can I speak?
Yeah.
So, according to me, worldview is basically like a perspective of the world around us through an individual. For example, I view the world as a beautiful and a nice place for which humanity does many developments and also makes some mistakes.
Can I?
Or
Yes, yes,
I also want to add a point.
yes, yes.
So I think worldview is that which we want in the world, the peace we all want, the perfection we all want. Yeah, the world can't be perfect, but we can make it a better place. For me, what the worldview is, we can make a better place for every human being to live in, with equality, with fraternity, and with peace.
Uh, I think a worldview is a collection of attributes, values, stories, and expectations about the world around us, which inform us every thought and action. Worldview is expressed in ethics, religion, philosophy, scientific beliefs, and so on.
Exactly. So each of us have our own point of views, right? So to answer this question from my side, it might sound a bit funny, but according to me, a worldview is like lenses or a pair of eyeglasses through which we look at this world. And also, one more very important point, that is, depending upon the lens type and prescription, the glasses which the worldview is, can make everything look blurry, can make everything look totally clear or transparent. I would like to integrate it with history, that this the answer to this question is exactly the same. History is that lens prescription which allows us to see this world very clearly. History helps us develop a better understanding of the world. It gives us a detailed picture of how the society, the technology, and the government worked in past, so that we can better understand how it works now too. History gives us the explanation of the evolution of mankind from scratch to this modern age. And as we talk about worldview here, we must also concentrate on which part of the globe witnessed which phase of civilization. History is not always about dates, about kings, or about names and events, but it's about how humans have developed themselves and how your nation, how my city, or even my community came to be everything that it is today. Now, I would like to conclude it here by saying that history gives us the ability to improve our future outputs. Our complete today is completely dependent on the fact that we study history. It's a subject, right? History is one aspect which affects our worldview in many ways. So, a big yes to this topic of the debate, of the group discussion, sorry, that how history enriches the knowledge of us. Thank you.
And can I?
Uh, can I, ma'am?
Okay, Pranjal, and who was the other one?
Ma'am, I Tanisha.
Okay, Tanisha, I'll just get back to you. Pranjal, you can speak, beta.
So thank you for.
Pranjal, you are on mute. You need to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry for that. Yes. So thank you for this opportunity that you all allowed me to speak, and all my fellow friends are here for this conversation. So let's begin. So history is all about the past of the human race and inscribed in some of the books known to man to date. So what it provides is two choices to humanity, a good and a bad choice. The good choice can be to develop the humanity in such a pace that it may never stop and the sun will never set for humanity. And the bad choice is live as his life as a merry person and no improvement is done in the life of humanity. And history is not just a record of the past happening around the world, but it gives humanity a great gift of opportunities for the better pavement of the future. History is the greatest tool of humanity to overcome all his past and harrowing acts and change the world for his future generations. For example, this can also be seen. For example, when the world was in darkness, there was an invention of the candles and fire. And when the current was also becoming a problem for the humanity, the great scientist Nikola Tesla invented the DC current, alternating current, also known as. So that was some of my view for the history, and I would like to conclude that history is not just a subject, but is also a great tool for humanity to shape its new future. That's all I would like to say.
Ma'am, now can I? We all were talking here about how history changes the world and how it is related to economics, civics, scientific discoveries, and all inventions. But we all forget that world is with us. Means we people make the world, and how history makes a build a people, make a human. Is like we all know history has many great leaders. Like many times I have here listened about Hitler, and we all say that Hitler was really cruel, very he was a bloody devil. He was a bloody devil, but there was some like every coin has its two sides. Just wait. Hitler's character was also two sides. Yeah, he was very cruel with Jews, and which was really wrong. The Holocaust incident Jews faced was really deadly, and I feel sorry for the Jews. But we can't deny that he was a nationalist, and the idea, the vision for his country was really progressive. For yeah, there was a different thing that he hated Jews, but as a person, he had done a lot of struggle to the power which he get. His past was really struggling, which can tell us that how with hard work, with dedication, with determination, we can get what we want. In fact, also the nationalist view was also the main some of the good points which I admire about Hitler. It's just my point that the nationalist view of Hitler was really great indeed. The military, the how the discipline was really tremendous. And I think everyone should learn these few things from Hitler's character. Aside the negative part, and also some of the great leaders like Winston Churchill, he was indeed a nightmare for India for sure. Because of him, the people of West Bengal and in fact many parts of the India during the World War II faced the food crisis, and many people died in that. More people died in that rather than COVID-19 during that food crisis. But we should see this that for his nation, how he didn't care about anything else. Actually, we see he was just concerned for his country. So we should just understand that our nation should be our first priority, because this nation is the only place for our home, and history and the leaders in the past tell us how to be nationalist, how to be a patriot, which I think. In fact, the great ruler of Rajasthan, Mewar, Maharana Pratap, he was such a uh, he was such a brave warrior, and his self-respect was at its peak. In fact, Akbar saluted him for his self-respect. Self-respect is the main thing which a person should have. We should be so strong that no other country or no other so-called power can dominate us. In fact, like today's world, America just try to become like alpha who dominates every other country and uses small countries for its benefit, like Libya, Iran, Iraq, in fact Afghanistan also. He used it for his personal gain with Russia, its conflict with Russia and China. So we should be that strong that countries like that couldn't dominate us. And these moral values history teaches us. So I would simply conclude that history just not only give inventions, economical or uh, political scenario, but it also gives some good leaders who tell us how the world should run, how a person should be, and how a nation should grow.
Mm, can I
Thank
please
you so
speak?
much, Tanisha.
I want to add a point to her.
Ma'am, can I
Yes,
start
Tanisha,
now?
I'll just get back to
Tanisha,
you.
I don't think that mistreating people and having a sad past doesn't give us the right to make people struggle. I don't think being a good leader, you don't have the right to discriminate among people. So I don't think we should learn that from Hitler. And I don't think he was a good leader.
I would also like to add a point at the Hitler point of Tanisha. So, but in a positive way. So, yeah, I would agree to your point that Hitler was a cruel ruler, but it was due to his past. As I've read some books about him, so he he was facing many difficulties in his time. He even got exiled from his country, but then he came back, and that's what caused him to be such a cruel ruler. So, as a like point of view, I would also say that history only affects a person's future. So Hitler did a wrong thing, we know, but he could have also corrected it through embracing its past and framing a new future for humanity, as we've all seen from its economics reforms and many other reforms. So
I would also like to beg to differ.
I would like to add on to that point. It is not about what we think about the one individual. We're not talking about Hitler as a history. We're not talking about the chronology. We're actually thinking about what the effect had, what it had the effect upon the people, what the people struggled, and how the Jews took that response from Hitler. That is what we call history. The effects, what the main people, the literature, what they get is what history is for.
Arpit, you can speak now.
Yes, ma'am. I was saying that I also agree with Tanisha and Alicia that thing you said that we should not learn anything from Hitler just because he was cruel. Yes, I know he was very cruel. His rules were very autocratic. So we should not learn anything from Hitler is just as ignorant because Hitler was a very powerful leader. He moved the nation.
कि
His
हमें
words
हिस्ट्री
moved
पता होनी चाहिए
each and
ताकि
every
हम अपने
person of the country.
पेड़ में
But his
कैसा
way and his
ताकि
path
दूसरे
was
इंडिया
wrong.
को
So I
थोड़ा
totally
अच्छा
agree with Tanisha
जानकारी
that
फैलाना
we
चाहिए.
should learn from Hitler that how to rule, how to lead a country, but not how to make people more, how to enslave people. We should learn from Hitler that how, if we want to change the world, how we can bring the change, uh, how can we put that how can we put that change in the country. But we should also keep in mind our intention should also be
Thank you, Arpit, for
Thank you,
supporting
Arpit.
me.
Aditya, do you want to speak something?
Ma'am, I want to just reply to
Yes,
Alicia.
ma'am.
Can I?
Aditya,
I will take a minute, just few seconds. Alicia, I just mentioned that to ignore the cruel part of Hitler, just focus on the positive part which Hitler has, like the ruling part, the power he had. I just said about that. Yeah, I also agree that enslaving anyone, being cruel with small kids, women, or hitting anyone just because of his religion is totally wrong, and I agree this. And in this, Hitler was totally wrong. But if we look him as a leader of a nation for German people, he was a good leader. So we can apply this in a positive way for India, and which would help us only. We'll side the cruel part, but the nationalist part which he had, we can add this. We can, in fact, every person has good and bad thing. I think we should learn the good part from every person.
yes, Aditya, you can speak now.
Yes, ma'am. I think that history allows us to investigate and interpret the past in order to see how we developed and where we come from. We can get an idea what has influenced our past, present, and also what will shape our future. I think Hitler was a great administrator and a ruler. We can see that what previous generation did and whether or not. History helps us to understand change. It records people and helps to understand success and failures. Though these studies we can learn about change and how others are affected by.
Thank you so much, Aditya. But I do have a question for everyone. Why are we talking about Hitler here only in particular? So, is there anybody else who hasn't spoken a while, guys?
So
Ma'am,
it's
can
me.
I start?
Yes, Pragya. And who's the other one?
Ma'am Aditya.
Aditya, I'll get back to you. Pragya, you can go on, please.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Pragya Singh Dhaloria from DV Public School, Cyberabad, Ghaziabad. So instead of directly jumping into the topic, let's get started with the question what the history is and what is its importance. So history is the study of humans and their actions. It's the knowledge of our past experiences or the study of the past. It helps us to point a detailed picture of where we stand today. Knowledge of history gives us a chance to learn from our past mistakes. It's rightly said by George Santayana in the same context that those who don't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. History helps us to gain insights into why people's culture, government, and countries are in their current states. Let us see with an example. So, in today's time, India is a democratic country, but it was not so in the past centuries. Indian lawmakers realized the need for democracy while struggling for the independence from the British rule. By this, we can also conclude that the present is the result of past. So, yes, I agree with the fact that the knowledge of history enriches one's worldview. One can't correctly interpret the situation, the current situation in the world, without knowing its backstory or the history. For example, my friends were talking, my colleagues were talking about the Hitler and the Nazi. So let's take that example. So one might support that Nazi ideology or Nazism as she may not know the history of Nazi thinkers. That how Nazi people brutally killed thousands of Jews, Gypsies, and Polish people. But the knowledge, or we can say that the knowledge of history influences one's decision, and moreover, it also influences and enriches one's worldview. So I would like to end with a line that one can't interpret the present rightly without knowing the past.
Thank you so much, Pragya. So, Aditya, you can speak now.
I just want to add a point.
Yes, Shrashti, you can go on.
According to me, history is not always about kingdom and their ups and downs and their empires, especially about not Hitler. History is also about the scientific philosophical explanation of the evolution of the universe and also about the study of change over time. Thank you.
Absolutely, Shrashti. So, Aditya, you can speak now.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to thank the entire team to give me an important opportunity to share my opinion on this topic. So, of course, yes, knowledge of history enriches one's worldview, but history here shouldn't mean only about kings and kingdoms, their rise and falls, their ups and downs. History is must include in its review the origin of mankind, their disposal to different destinations throughout the course of evaluation. History must also include the scientific and philosophical explanation of the evolution of the universe, the solar system. History, which already covers in its fold the different stages of civilization of mankind, must also concentrate which part of the globe witnessed which phase of civilization at what time. The development of agriculture, the primary profession of prime people from the very start of humanity must be given primary focus with area of origin of different cultural products and their spread. History is the interconnectivity of different languages, different cultures, different religions throughout the world. History helps us to develop a better understanding of a world. Understanding history helps us understand the world at large. History paints a detailed picture of how the society, how our society, technology, and government worked in past so that we can better understand how it works now. History helps us to understand ourselves as well, to understand who you are, who need to develop a sense of self. Studying history at large can help us understand our personal history, learning where you fit into the story of your country or the global community. In the grand schemes of things, history isn't about dates, events, and names. History is all about people, and history's people tells us the story of how your nation, city, or community came into existence. History teaches a working understanding of change can be a difficult concept to understand. Each of us has a different experience with the rest of the world, an experience shaped by social norms, cultural differences. But plus, history is just plain interesting. Everything you like about your favorite movies, television shows, and fiction novels is yours to experience right here in reality when you study history. Whether in or out of a history department, explore the possibilities today and step into a whole new world that will change who you are forever. I would like to conclude my opinion with these all things we get to know only by studying history. Many people usually says that history is boring and very time wasting subject, but it is interesting for them who study it with interest, focus, and those who love to know about the past of the worldwide. Thank you and have a nice day.
I would like to add a point.
Go on, Pranjal.
Yes, so I did this. I agree with some of your points, but also not all of them. As history, I don't believe history to be a study of the past only. I believe it as a whole, like a diary of the humanity that humanity has made till now, and all the events that made humanity capable of what it is right now. So that's why I would like to end.
I would like to talk about it.
Yes, Prachi, you can speak.
Yes. Uh, First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about on this topic. And Prachi Singh this side from DA Public School, Cyberabad. In my opinion, I think about history as the study of people, their actions, their decisions, their interactions, their behaviors. When I think about history, I think about people, and I do not talk about the events happened, the dates, the specific dates, and what happened at that moment. I think about what happened to the people at that moment. What happened? What effects did the people have? History always has the side upon which we discuss how people tolerated that event or how people discussed about it. So why do we study history? Why do we talk about history? Well, if I think about it, we always say that live in the present, talk about the future, live in the present. But when we're living in the present, we do not know where we're going. And to know where we're going, we shall know where we came from. And that's where we appreciate history. History, what is history? I told you. Why we learn history? I told you. What does history do? History, as I may talk about the topic, does history enriches our worldview, the knowledge of history? Well, I think about yes, it is the mere discussion that history does affect our worldview in a great sense. History helps us understand change. History is full of transitions which have altered the world's story. And when we think about history, we can learn from the past mistakes which happened. We gain context from the human experience. Like we haven't even discussed the pandemic. Like pandemic was literally a history, and we learned from it. We learned mistakes, and that's where history comes. I conclude.
I would like to add a point.
Yes, Aditya, you can speak, beta.
Yes, ma'am. Studying history also helps us to understand and grapple with complex questions and dilemmas by examining how the past has shaped and continues to shape global, national, and local relationship between societies and people. History gives us the opportunity to learn from others and past mistakes, especially past mistakes. It help us to understand the many reasons why people may behave the same way they do.
Thank you so much, Aditya. So, do we have anybody who hasn't spoken a while, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Shrashti, you can go. Sorry, who was that?
Shall I start now?
Yes, Rashti, please speak.
Good evening, respected members of the jury, the host, my opposition. I'm Srishti Oja, and I stand in front of you supporting that does knowledge of history enrich one's worldview. We all thought that history class is a drag. To us, history is just a jumble of names and date attached to events that happened a long time ago. What was the point of learning it at all? Maybe some of you didn't know that history is one of the most important subjects we have ever studied. So now I want to say why history is important and why everyone should make it a point to study it in depth. History brings peace, prosperity, and intellectuality among people. 16th century English philosopher Francis Bacon has responsibly mentioned history gives wisdom. I think it is absolutely true. What Bacon said, without a deep perusal of ancient, medieval, and modern history, you cannot understand anything which has occurred in the past. Religious, literary, scriptural, philosophical, grammatical, and linguistic texts are primary sources or materials for historiography. No doubt scientists, engineers, and doctors have played a remarkable role in the development of the modern world. But the people of these sections can never motivate the mind of the masses, which call up a nationwide movement. Whether it is a French Revolution in 1789, Russian Revolution in 1917, socialism are all the result of historical consciousness of literate person. Equality, liberty, and fraternity change everything about modern period and modern people. Word of history and historians can be confused in the word of H.G. Wells. God cannot alter the past, but historians can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashti. So, do we have anybody else because we are
May I?
running out of time?
Ma'am, shall I
Aditya?
go on?
Ma'am, may I?
Ma'am, may I?
Okay, there's
I
you,
also
Alicia,
want.
and who's the other one? I'm not
Ma'am, Shreya.
Me.
Shreyan. Okay, Shreyan, you can speak after her. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Alicia, and I'm from Mount Columbus School. And as for me, I think history does enrich one's worldview. It may change our perception and opinions about the world. History includes scientific and philosophical explanation of the evolution of the universe. The development process, the very first profession of humans must be given a primary focus. And it tells us about how the world changed over years, how people migrated to different places, how tribes became big countries. History is an array of information. Our history actually builds up empathy through learning the struggles of others, and it also improves our emotional thinking. And it may give us the opportunity to not repeat the past mistakes. Through history, we learn about various human experiences, and it also helps us appreciate cultures, ideas, and traditions of others. History makes us understand that success and failures, then how it affected people, and how we should always be ready to face the consequences. As I've said before, our past doesn't give us the right to make people struggle, enslave them. As let's take example for the blacks, they all had so many, like, they were treated really badly in America, but still they never did anything. They were never violent, and usually protested for their rights, and in the end they got their rights. So I would just say that history plays an important role in our present and our future. That's it for me.
Ma'am, can I speak?
Shreyan, you can speak. Aditya, I'll get back to you.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Shankar and I am a student of DAV, Saibabad and Ghaziabad. History is such an important subject and plays a vital role when it comes to shaping of our society. History is the study of past events. We refer to the past when comparing it with the present times and deduce the changes that have taken place. History is such an important part of our everyday lives, not only because there are certain past events and occurrences that shaped our present world, but also due to the fact that humanity tends to go through the same challenges over and over again.
As we have already heard the same line, history repeats itself. This means that some trends and patterns in our life tend to repeat themselves. Statistics and experiences from the past can be the roadmap for national planning and sharing of resources. There is one example like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. There were many techniques of him that today our government cannot find him. The father of Indian Navy is considered also of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. It also helps us to know about culture, customs, and changes occurred from time to time. There are many people who like to explore and discover new things. Studying history gives us an opportunity to explore activities that occurred in the past. And by exploring, you find out what used to happen yet still not known to other people. And history provides a definite knowledge as to how people sacrifice their lives to make the future better. Development is a process that can be done in a better way through history only. Therefore, I would like to conclude that the value of history cannot be underestimated, as history plays a critical role in promoting one's intellectual growth and development.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
can I?
point. I just want to add one point. What
Ma'am, I also want to add one point.
Aditya, Rai, you can speak, beta. Tanisha, you can speak after him.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for having me again. So I think even in our everyday life, we can see how past knowledge helps us to improve the future's outcome, whether it is improvement of policies, electronics, automobiles, or other source of living. So it also helps us to improve the quality of life for mankind. So I would like to request to those who are not interested in studying history that please you should learn a bit of you should have a knowledge of history to live a quality of life. Thank you.
I would also like to add a point to Aditya.
Ma'am, I also want.
And me too, ma'am.
Tanisha, you were saying something.
Yes, ma'am. Just like Shranja said, that Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is considered as the father of Indian Navy. I would also add one more point that the guerrilla warfare technique, which Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj used in his war, is now researched in 90, almost 90 to 95 countries are researching on that warfare. That it was a significant technique to counter the large army of the enemies. So in this way, I can just say that history tells us many things. It's a very vast and a very deep subject, and in fact, it also the meaning of history here. Many of them were telling what they mean history. So I think everyone has a different perspective about history, and it's a very vast topic and it's an endless topic. So I just want to end and conclude myself with just one quote that history belongs to the past, but understanding it is the responsibility of today's generation to the present.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. So, guys, we are running out of time. So, whosoever wants to speak, you just make it. You just have to make it very quick.
Yes,
Yes,
so I
ma'am,
would
I
like
want to. Ma'am,
Aditya, yeah, you can speak.
Yes, ma'am. Here, everyone was saying why to study history. Ma'am, I will give some pointers that everyone will agree behind me. That to learn about our past. First point is to learn about our past. We would learn about the challenges and achievements of our ancestors in different periods of time. Our second point, to understand the present. The more knowledge you gain about the past, the more insight you can have the present. Third point, to appreciate our heritage in a broad perspective. No, and the fourth point, to acquire a background for a critical thinking. Problems and their solutions are central to any survey of a history. At last, I would like to conclude it with as a result, it help us to become history, help us to become more impartial and decision makers. Thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am, I would
Pranjal,
like
you
to
can
speak.
speak better.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, I would agree with Aditya Kumar that history is for a development, and also I would like to suggest one more tip. Why study history? Like, if you want to know the past, you can also study. Like, if you want to gain the sense of the right and wrong for the future of yourself. For example, I would like to state an example of Sir Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton studied many things about the history, and then he gained many abilities to guide the humanity and create the fundamental laws of physics. That's all I have to say.
So I just want to say
Shazli, you
that
can speak. Yeah.
history can help in the formation of our concept of identity. One of the key reasons that history is still taught in school around the world is because of this only. So that's what I want to say.
Yes,
I
Prachi,
want,
you
Ma'am,
can
I want
speak
to add up
better.
something. May
ma'am.
I,
The
Hardik?
thing is, we all are here to talk about history. So history is subjective. Everyone can have their own meaning towards it. But the thing is, we have to understand history and we have to respect history and how others were operated and how other things were built. And all.
Hardik, you can speak better.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to say that by studying history, we can have a good personal growth and appreciation that just if we understand past events and how they impact the world today, can bring about the empathy and understanding for groups of people who whose history may be different from the mainstream. You will also understand the suffering, joy, and curse that were necessary for the present day to happen and appreciate all that you are able to benefit from the past efforts today. Yeah, and that's what I want to convey.
Thank you
Can I
so
also
much,
add something?
Hardik. Okay, Anya, please make it really quick, beta.
Yes, ma'am. At the end, I would like to conclude by saying that studying history helps us understand how the events in the past made their ways as they are today. With lessons from the past, we not only learn about ourselves and how we came, but also develop the ability to avoid mistakes and create better paths for the societies.
Thank you so much, Anya, and thank you
I would
so
like
much,
to add a
everyone.
point.
Sorry, who's that?
It's me. I would make it real quick. And I think our history also makes us understand our own society. It helps us make a bond between us and our country. As if we know about the history of our country, we will be more attracted to our country and we will try to make our future better.
Ma'am, I would also like to add the point in just a minute.
Yes,
Ma'am,
Arpit.
ma'am, everybody is talking about why we should read history, but no one is pointing that while reading history, we should be very, very, very careful because while because historians also have to be careful about the terms they use because those terms meant different things in the past. A person in a particular country meant used a word for a particular meaning, but it was possible that another person or another community used that word very differently. For example, a simple term like foreigner now means a person who is not Indian. However, during the medieval period, this term was used for strangers who came to a particular village and who were not a part of the society or culture. So that was what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. That was all for today. Thank you so much to all the participants, and thank you so much to all the viewers. And for all the viewers, I hope you guys know that the winner will be decided 50% on the basis of the votes that you are giving in the live chat, and 50% our team will decide. And thank you so much, everyone. It was lovely to have a group discussion with you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Good
ma'am.
day, everyone. And for all the viewers watching us
Thank
out,
you, ma'am.
don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more stuff like this. Thank you, guys. Have a
Thank you,
good day.
ma'am,
Much, ma'am.
and
Thank you,
have a
ma'am.